Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Akshay Dongre, coming up in the next hour. Iranian missiles target Kuwait, Bahrain just hours after US strikes down Iranian drones that were launched towards Strait of Hormuz. Fresh strikes escalate tensions between Israel and Lebanon after unresolved disagreements continue to stall ceasefire efforts. Russian President Putin hails India as a reliable partner, points that it is one of the leading players in the IT industry. India reiterates that Jammu and Kashmir will always be an integral part of the country, condemns Pakistan's repeated references and false narratives at the UNGA. And in sports, Grandmaster Praggnanandhaa clinches his maiden Norway Chess title after defeating Germany's Vincent Kiemer in a thrilling final round. And latest on US-Iran war first, the US military said that Iran fired 7 ballistic missiles toward Kuwait and Bahrain just hours after US Central Command shot down Iranian attack drones that were launched towards Strait of Hormuz and also struck Iranian radar sites. CENTCOM in a statement said that the US forces intercepted multiple Iranian ballistic missiles and drones launched by Iran toward the Strait of Hormuz and Gulf neighbors. Iran fired 7 ballistic missiles toward Kuwait and Bahrain hours after US Central Command shot down 4 Iranian one-way attack drones that were launched towards the Strait of Hormuz. The attack drones posed an immediate threat to regional maritime traffic. US forces subsequently struck Iranian coastal vessels' radar sites in Goruk and Qeshm Island to defend against further maritime attacks. Initial assessment indicates 6 of the missiles launched by Iran were intercepted and a 7th did not reach its intended target. The statement further said the US forces remain vigilant and postured to continue responding to unwarranted Iranian aggression in self-defense. CENTCOM also said that there are currently no reports of harm to US personnel, and Iranians' claim of damaging US 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain are false. Earlier, Iran's Revolutionary Guard said on Saturday they hit enemy bases in the Gulf after US forces said they struck radar sites in Iran. US President Donald Trump said Iran still retains around 21 to 22% of its missile arsenal. In an interview to NBC News on Friday, Trump said that the US had totally destroyed Iran's military capabilities, including much of its missile and drone production network. The estimate is higher than the 18% figure Trump cited in May. The US president also claimed that American strikes have devastated much of Tehran's military infrastructure during the ongoing conflict. The United States announced on Friday its approval of a $1.98 billion arms sale to Kuwait. The US State Department in a statement said it would allow purchase of counter-drone technology from defense company Anduril. The statement further said the proposed sale will support the foreign policy and national security objectives of the United States by improving the security of a major non-NATO ally that has been an important force for political stability and economic progress in the Middle East. And to talk more about this, we have Akhilesh Suman, our senior correspondent, joining us on this story. Akhilesh, it's quite concerning. We were looking at an end of conflict. We were looking at tall claims about ceasefire. But now again, we are where we were in the initial of the conflict. Stock markets tanking, world economy looming large. What is happening as far as the region is concerned, and how concerning it is for the world peace?
Yes, you are right, Akshay, because everyone thought that the ceasefire will try to solve situations in between US and Iran, but rather than solving, it is complicating the situation because both sides are buying time to destroy one another's capabilities and making one's assets as a bargaining chip for another. So recently we have seen that Lebanon's president is telling that Iran is using Lebanon and Hezbollah as bargaining chip with Israel and America. So I think that just now we have heard from Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian foreign minister, that Lebanon president should understand who the real enemy is. So that war of words, including the low intensity war, is continuing in the whole region. Lebanon president and the people of Lebanon are really becoming victim of a fight between Hezbollah and Israel, and Iran people and other people of the world are victim of a fight between US and Iran. US wants to keep the war in low intensity mode for a long time, it seems, because as Donald Trump is claiming almost every 15 days that how he has destroyed the Iranian military capacity, the Iranian arsenal, and yesterday he told that 22% of missiles are still with Iran. So that means that Iran is still making some equipments to fight against the American aggression inside, or you can say that American attack on Iran. Iranians are trying to use this opportunity to again intimidate the neighboring countries like Bahrain and Kuwait. Even though U.S. bases are there in Bahrain and Kuwait, and people claim that the attack against Iran was launched from Bahrain and Kuwait bases of America. So I think this low intensity war is continuing, and in between the Strait of Hormuz is closed. I think that US is again putting much more pressure that if there is any ship, even in Indo-Pacific, that will also be stopped with the suspicion that there might be Iranian supporters or Iranian ships. So I think that low intensity war has again increased. Even the ceasefire is almost completing 100 days. So
Right.
we don't see any end of war. We don't see any end of conflict in the whole region. And both parties are buying time. They are trying to press their agenda, trying to test their conditions. Iranians are telling that they freeze the almost $22 billion that are there in the American control. Americans are telling that open up the Strait of Hormuz and
Right.
then talk on processed uranium. So these things are still there. These
Unresolved.
things are still being negotiated, but how far it will be successful, everyone is having a doubt.
Well, Akhilesh, you just said that both sides are buying time. For the benefit of our viewer, and I also want to ask this question: US is one of the world's largest military power. Uh, Obviously, it has all that it requires to launch a full-blown war, though it can be devastating for any economy to launch a war with a enemy at the scale of Iran. But what is Iran buying time for? What are they gaining from buying more time? Because according to the U.S. Government's estimation, Iran is already cut off. It doesn't have access to a lot of weapons. What exactly is likely to happen if both get time? Let's say a couple of more months before again hostilities begin full swing. It seems we have lost the connection with Akhilesh. We'll get back to him soon, but let's moving on. In a parallel conflict in Lebanon, Iran-aligned armed group Hezbollah said on Friday that it had carried out 2 attacks on Israeli troops in South Lebanon, including near the recently captured Beaufort Castle, while Lebanese security services said Israeli airstrikes hit towns across southern Lebanon. The latest round of fighting between Hezbollah and Israel erupted at the start of March, 2 days after the US and Israel launched strikes against Iran. Hezbollah said its actions were in support of Tehran. Israel has kept up strikes in southern Lebanon, and it has said its forces would not withdraw or halt operations in the country amid increasing friction with the US. Earlier, Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem had rejected a US brokered pact between Israel and the Lebanese government to halt the fighting in Lebanon. Meanwhile, Iran has reaffirmed support for its Lebanese ally Hezbollah and demanded that Israel withdraw from the southern Lebanon, underscoring complications facing an interim deal to end the broader conflict between the US and Iran.
This war is between Iran and the United States and Israel, and naturally, Lebanon is an inseparable part of this war, just as it was involved during the war. Therefore, we do not see the fate of Iran's war with the United States and Israel as separate from the fate of the war in Lebanon. Lebanon has paid a price in this war that was imposed on us by the United States and Israel, and we will never forget the people of Lebanon and our friends in Lebanon who were targeted by Israel in this war. In our view, there will certainly be a single fate for ending this war in Iran, in the region, and in Lebanon. That means either the war ends in both places or the war continues in both places.
West Asia remains on edge as sharp exchanges between the US and Iran over enriched uranium add fresh uncertainty to an already volatile region. While US President Donald Trump says Washington does not need a deal with Iran to obtain enriched uranium, Tehran continues to defend its nuclear program. Meanwhile, Lebanon President Joseph Aoun has said that Hezbollah must recognize that diplomacy remains the only solution with Israel, and also accused Iran of using Lebanon as a bargaining chip in its negotiations with the United States. Here's the report.
West Asia remains tense as military threats, diplomatic efforts, and regional clashes continue to reshape the conflict landscape. Iranian Parliament Deputy Speaker Hamid Raza Hazi-Babei said on Friday that uranium enrichment remains Tehran's right and claimed US President Donald Trump has failed to understand that Iran's most powerful atomic bomb was the strategic Strait of Hormuz. Earlier on Thursday, Trump said that Washington did not need a deal with Iran to secure enriched uranium from the country, and added that he remains open to meeting Iran's new supreme leader if two sides reach a peace deal.
I don't want to meet, but if I did meet, I'd be honored to meet him. I'd like to see if we make a deal. But if we make a deal, it's possible that I would meet him. I'd be okay with it. You know, we've done a good job. As far as Iran's concerned, you're going to find out what the deal is. But the main parts of the deal is they can't have a nuclear weapon. The Strait will open immediately. You know, it's going to open immediately.
Meanwhile, Iran's navy claimed it fired warning missiles and drones at US warships in the Gulf of Oman, accusing American forces of interfering with maritime traffic. On another volatile front along the Mediterranean coast, Donald Trump has said that progress was being made between Israel and Lebanon after a US brokered ceasefire agreement.
They didn't reject that. They're looking. I think Hezbollah, I will tell you, they called us and they said, how about stopping? And I think you're going to see things happen over there. That's been like a little bit of a different world, but it's interconnected with Iran. And it would be really nice if Lebanon could have some peace. Lebanon's been under attack for so many years and always like an underdog. And it would be really nice if it could end.
However, Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nibah Berri said on Friday that Hezbollah could withdraw from southern Lebanon only if Israeli troops also leave occupied territories. Iran has also reiterated support for Hezbollah and maintained that any border peace agreement with Washington must include a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. Meanwhile, heavy damage was reported from Lebanon's Tyre city following Israeli strikes, as evacuation warnings were issued for residents of Sarafan ahead of expected attacks. The evolving crisis across West Asia remains closely watched amid fears of a wider regional conflict. With agency inputs, Nishcha Roy's report for DD India.
And still to come on DD India NewsHour. Russia and Ukraine exchange fresh strikes, details to follow. Cuban leader Raul Castro makes his first public appearance since his US indictment. The US announces an additional $38 million for Ebola response efforts amid the outbreak in Africa.
"20 years ago, swamp. Today, skyscrapers. Tomorrow, who knows? Billion-rupee gamble on the future. Newtown might have some answers.
The waste segregation, 100% of it is done at source. The percentage of the waste to landfills has reduced to 4%, and it captures 95% of the city's stormwater.
Some garage doors have special components like strengthened jambs and brackets and bracing that allow it to withstand those winds.
I think it's a very wise investment in resilient housing, coming up with designs which are adaptive. It can very well be a long-term solution for the area.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Akshay Dongre. Russia and Ukraine continued to trade strikes on Friday, attacking drones and key military facilities. The Russian Defense Ministry said in its latest report that its forces have launched one massive attack and 6 cluster strikes on the Ukrainian side in the past week with long-range, high-precision weapons and combat UAVs. Ukraine's air, missile and artillery forces attacked multiple Russian targets, including personnel, assembly areas, command posts and artillery systems, along with 2,046 drones being shot down. Earlier on Friday, the International Atomic Energy Agency announced the start of a localized ceasefire brokered on the line near the Zaporizhzhia NPP, that is a nuclear power plant, enabling repairs to the plant's crucial power line. The Zaporizhzhia plant, one of Europe's largest nuclear power facilities, has been under Russian control since March 2022. European leaders gathered at an European Union summit in Montenegro on Friday, where discussions focused on the gradual integration of 6 Western Balkan countries aspiring to join the bloc. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called for a faster and more credible enlargement process. Leaders including French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz supported the idea of phased or gradual integration, allowing candidate countries closer participation in EU structure before full membership. The White House would accelerate the development and use of AI for national security applications, while stressing that the technology should not be used to carry out unlawful surveillance. The Trump administration said earlier this week that it would ask leading AI developers to voluntarily submit their most capable models for government cybersecurity tests before releasing them to the public. As security fears mount in Washington over powerful new AI systems, the Pentagon slapped a formal supply chain risk designation on Anthropic in March after it refused to back down on bans for its cloud AI to power autonomous weapons and mass US surveillance. The Pentagon said it should be able to use the technology as needed as long as it complied with the US laws. Cuba's former leader Raul Castro appeared at an Interior Ministry celebration in Havana. first public appearance of the leader since his indictment on murder charges last month in the United States. The Trump administration has accused the former defense minister of ordering Cuban military jets to shoot down planes operated by a group of Cuban exiles in 1996, a major escalation in Washington's pressure campaign against the island's communist government. Castro, who turned 95 on Wednesday, was last seen in public a month ago during May 1st festivities in Havana, just prior to his indictment. He had previously not been seen since January 15th, when he appeared in a public ceremony in the capital paying homage to the 32 Cuban soldiers killed during the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Air Canada suspending its service to Cuba indefinitely, citing political and economic uncertainty on the island facing intensifying pressure from US President Donald Trump. Canada's national carrier, which in February announced a pause on Cuba flights until November, said it wanted to give customers more certainty regarding the prospect of future travel. The fuel embargo in place since January has left Cuba without diesel for generators used to bolster its crumbling power supply, resulting in power outages of up to 22 hours a day and shortages of tap water as well. With transport virtually at a standstill, the island is also running short on food and medicine, making it reliant on aid shipments coming in from Mexico and China. Now moving to South Korea, where thousands of people gathered outside a vote counting center in Seoul demanding a rerun of its week's local election after a shortage of ballots prevented some voters from casting their votes. The protest took place at the SK Olympic Handball Stadium, where ballots from yesterday's election were being counted. The polls were held to elect mayors, provincial governors, county officials and members of local assemblies. Some protesters came to the site after seeing videos and social media posts raising concerns about the vote count and ballot shortages. According to election officials, 50 of the 14,300 polling stations ran out of ballots, while voting was temporarily suspended at 22 stations due to delays in receiving supplies. From South to North Korea now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his daughter, known as Ju-ae, visited the naval destroyer Kangkon to supervise the vessel's navigation test. Kim stressed the need to enhance naval capabilities to deter nuclear war and ordered the Navy to deploy the destroyer and a 5,000-ton warship called Cho-hyun as soon as possible after the completion of tests. Footage also showed photographs of Ju-ae standing next to Kim on Kangkon's deck during the trip on Thursday. Gunfire rang out overnight in Somalia's capital Mogadishu as rival political factions clashed over an extension of the president's term. The clashes follow tensions after lawmakers loyal to the president amended the constitution in March, paving the way for Somalia's first direct elections. Opposition groups have rejected the changes, calling them a power grab. Somalia held local elections in Mogadishu in December, the first direct vote since 1969. But plans for national elections remain uncertain due to deep political divisions and insecurity. The country remains split along clan and regional lines, with parts still controlled by the Al-Shabaab militant group. An uneasy calm has now returned to Mogadishu, though it is unclear if there have been casualties or detentions during this entire fiasco. US President Donald Trump said the federal government's Trump RX website for discounted prescription medicine will add 160 drugs. Trump made the announcement on Truth Social but did not name the drugs that would be added. Trump RX, launched in January, is part of Trump's most favored nation pricing deals with drug maker aimed at lowering prescription drug costs to levels seen in other developed nations. It initially only featured branded medicines. The site does not sell drugs directly, but rather sends patients to order sites to buy the medicines. While Trump has pledged to make prescription drugs cheaper for Americans than anywhere in the world, prices on the website are not lower than those paid in the United Kingdom. Now, updates on Ebola outbreak in Africa. The United States on Friday, it said it would provide an additional $38 million for Ebola response efforts. The additional funds bring the total committed by US to more than $200 million in direct funding. The State Department in a statement said it was working closely with the US Center for Disease Control and Prevention as well as the DRC and Uganda to mount a rapid and comprehensive response to the outbreak. Earlier, the US CDC on Friday urged strong public health interventions against the current Ebola outbreak, citing their model that show it would otherwise rival the scale of the 2014 West Africa outbreak. Meanwhile, workers in Democratic Republic of Congo built additional structures at a hospital in Bunia to meet the need posed by the latest strain of Ebola. The outbreak in the Central African nation has resulted in 452 confirmed cases of Ebola and 82 deaths so far. The DRC Health Ministry on Friday said that 71 new cases were confirmed in a 24-hour period and warned of rapid community transmission. In US, the US Department of Agriculture confirmed a second case of New World screwworm in Texas on Friday. The new cases of Zavala County was detected just 5.6 miles from the first positive case of screwworm in Texas, which the USDA confirmed on Wednesday. The second case was discovered just hours after Texas Governor Greg Abbott expanded a statewide disaster declaration in response to the screwworm's arrival in Texas. The order further reassigns all resources from across the state as needed and makes available all state personnel, including those from university system, to speed up the shipment of sterile flies into Texas and construction of a sterile fly facility in South Texas as well. USDA established a 20-kilometer infested zone that prevents the movement of animals from the area without any inspection. 7 workers were killed by a blast at an illegal coal mine in Colombia caused by methane gas buildup. The explosion took place in the central town of Sutatuasa on Thursday. Accidents in both legal and illegal coal mines are frequent in central Colombia, owing mainly to workers' non-compliance with safety protocols. In May, 2 other explosions, one of them also in Satuatua, left 13 miners dead. Now let's take a look at some other stories making news across the globe. Rio de Janeiro's Christ the Redeemer statue was illuminated in green on Friday to mark World Environment Day and raise awareness about the environmental issues. Christ the Redeemer, one of Brazil's most recognizable landmarks, is often illuminated in different colors to mark public events and awareness campaigns. Chimpanzees at the Oakland Zoo were seen warming up on Friday for the FIFA World Cup coming to the San Francisco Bay Area. They are getting soccer-themed enrichment as keepers prepare them for FIFA World Cup. The activity aims to promote animal conservation awareness ahead of the World Cup matches starting June 13th in the region. Meanwhile, still to come on DD India NewsHour. In an exclusive podcast to DD India, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar talks on foreign policy over the last decade. Stay tuned to know more. As the NDA government completes 12 years at the centre, a report on how PM Modi's economic vision has transformed the ease of living for the people. The CBSE extends the deadline for Class 12 answer sheet re-verification and revaluation.
The land of forests, nature's hidden jewel. Jharkhand is a traveler's paradise. Get ready for a sensory extravaganza. complete with ancient traditions and world-class lifestyles, breathtaking scenic beauties and heart-stopping adventure. Thousands of years of faith preserved in magnificent temples, marvels of new age infrastructure.
Can I resist?
An abundance of prehistoric heritage flowing through generations.
I've heard so much about the expertise behind this vibrant Sorai art.
Discover new horizons. Discover yourself. Discover Jharkhand. Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Akshay Dongre. Iranian missiles target Kuwait, Bahrain just hours after US strikes down Iranian drones that were launched towards the Strait of Hormuz. Fresh strikes escalate tensions between Israel and Lebanon after unresolved disagreements continue to stall ceasefire efforts. Russian President Putin hails India as a reliable partner, points that it is one of the leading players in the IT industry. India reiterates that Jammu and Kashmir will always be an integral part of the country, condemns Pakistan's repeated references and false narratives at the UNGA. And in sports, Grandmaster R. Praggnanandhaa clinches his maiden Norway Chess title after defeating Germany's Vincent Keimer in a thrilling final round. Russian President Vladimir Putin has praised India's growing influence in the global technology sector. Speaking at a public event, Putin described India as one of Russia's key strategic partners and a leading force in the information technology industry.
Another key partner of ours is India, which is one of the leading players in the IT industry. It accounts for a significant share of the global software market.
And in a podcast with DD News, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar spoke about the evolution of India's foreign policy and diplomatic system, which he said has undergone significant changes driven by shifts in the global environment and the strong leadership under Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
The last decade, the country has changed, government has changed. Clearly, the Ministry of External Affairs and Foreign Service has also changed. And it's changed partly because the larger environment encourages that. So, if you look at the tasking, as you said, you tell people saying, look, we want to see how do you contribute to trade, what are you doing in technology, how are you promoting tourism. So, these are clearly targets, goals which are set so that they get the message and apply themselves accordingly. Quality, the attributes which you look today for in an Indian diplomat are different than they were before, and that difference reflects the changes which have come about in the country, in the government, and a lot of it again goes back to that leadership, the motivation, the energy. We spoke about Prime Minister Modi as a leader. He is also a great communicator. So, just following him, it gets people thinking. There's that desire to say, okay, if the head of the government is really pushing the envelope and taking the country, so what do I do on my part? I think that feeling is very much there.
Speaking about India's foreign policy approach, Dr. S. Jaishankar emphasized that diplomacy is about planning, anticipation and calm decision making rather than quick or emotional reactions. He highlighted that a key focus of India's diplomacy is strengthening ties with its neighbors.
Diplomacy is about anticipating it, planning for it to the best you can, reacting to it the best you can. And I do believe that in the last decade we have done a reasonable job at the minimum in that regard. Diplomacy is not about freezing advantageous situations and saying that will stay there forever. Diplomacy is about planning for those ups and downs and putting in place structures and relationships which do. If you are there for your neighbors, you are there for your neighbors when COVID hits them, when they have a fertilizer crisis, when they have a power crisis, when they are short of fuel, many of them sometimes have food issues, whatever it is. That sense that look, a growing India, a rising India is to your advantage, that good relations with India are to your advantage, and where there are problems you have to wait it out. It is not a question of strategic restraint, but diplomacy is not an impatient business, it is not a knee jerk response to what happens. Foreign policy has a certain calculation, it has a certain needs preparation, it has a timeline, that is how it works.
And to get more details, you can watch this exclusive conversation on DD India today at 5 p.m. Indian Standard Time with a repeat telecast at 10 p.m. IST. Now moving on, India has once again slammed Pakistan, delivering a key statement at the United Nations General Assembly plenary on annual reports of the Security Council. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, P. Harish, reiterated that Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India and condemned Pakistan's false narratives. Let's take a look.
The unwarranted reference by Pakistan to a matter strictly internal to India, the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, has compelled me to respond. Pakistan has decided not to spare this forum either from their characteristic misuse of august UN platforms for their divisive political interests. Abuse of its presence on the Security Council by Pakistan, including through the circulation of several misinformed and misleading communications, also testifies to this counterproductive approach. I'd like to remind Pakistan that being a member of the UN Security Council is a huge responsibility. It's not a forum for peddling biased and false narratives. I'd like to make it loud and clear. Jammu and Kashmir was, is, and will always remain an integral and inalienable part of India. Any assertions to the contrary are baseless, devoid of, and inconsistent with historical facts. Empty rhetoric and hollow claims by Pakistan would not change this fundamental reality. In the interest of time or the wider UN membership, I would not delve any further into this.
As a sign of boosting ties between the two nations, Nepalese Foreign Minister Shishir Khanal is on Indian visit. The visiting leader will hold talks with the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar covering trade, investment, connectivity, energy and people-to-people ties. The visit also follows a high-profile trip to India by Rabi Lamichhane, the chief of Nepal's ruling Rashtriya Swatantra Party, who received a grand reception in New Delhi that included a rare hour-long audience with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Over the last 12 years, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's governance has significantly reshaped India's developmental trajectory, with paradigm shift from a leaky to targeted welfare system. As the NDA government completes 12 years at the centre, the Modi era has been defined by a paradigm shift from a patronage-based leaky welfare system to one that is targeted, transparent and technology-driven. Experts find its core elements worth noting: streamlining and digitizing delivery. Through direct transfer benefit like Aadhaar, JAM, Trinity, scaling eligibility, outreach and central budgeting for flagship schemes. A report on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's economic vision. Let's take a look.
From the time Prime Minister Modi rose to prominence as the Chief Minister of Gujarat in the early 2000s, his affinity for promoting business and entrepreneurship was well known. During his tenure as Gujarat Chief Minister, the state's economy grew at a faster pace than the national economy for more than a decade. A research paper titled The Economic Mind of Narendra Modi by historian Hindol Sen Gupta, published for the Observer Research Foundation (ORF) on October 1, 2019, highlighted Prime Minister Narendra Modi's firm belief in an economic model that combines free market reforms with large-scale welfare programs. Examples of pro-market reforms undertaken under Prime Minister Modi's leadership over the last 12 years include introduction of goods and services tax, bringing in the insolvency and bankruptcy code, corporate tax cuts, promotion of startups and encouraging private business investment. At the same time, the government under Prime Minister Narendra Modi introduced and expanded key welfare schemes like Swachh Bharat toilets, Ujjwala LPG connections, PM Awas Yojana rural and urban, free ration under PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, PM Suraksha Bima Yojana and PM Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, and Ayushman Bharat PM Jan Arogya Yojana. The figures illustrate the impact of these schemes. Over 57 crore bank accounts had been opened under the Jan Dhan Yojana by February 2026, greatly deepening financial inclusion across the country. More than 1 crore homes have been built, of which over 98 lakh houses have been allotted, distributed across the country under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban. That's not all. Over 80 crore people are receiving food grains free of cost under the PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana.
We are a very stable economy, very stable force that our economy and our policies are. And also I must mention that to the world, we have, as an engine of growth, served for nearly 6 years now. This recognition of the country, and during this whole journey before COVID, after COVID, we have had the Prime Minister at the helm of affairs. He has led it from the front. All these policies that I am talking about, the policies that we need to be proud of, which have provided stability, both monetary and fiscal stability and financial sector stability, have been led by this government.
During his 12 years in office so far, Prime Minister Modi has striven to improve the efficiency of the government machinery through the wider application of modern technology. A key example of such efforts, popularly called the JAM Trinity, includes Jan Dhan, Aadhaar-based identification for direct benefit transfers, mobiles for UPI digital payments. This digital governance initiative is a prime example of how a leaky welfare state model dramatically cut down middlemen and corruption and enormously improved efficiency of direct transfer of welfare benefits.
So the beautiful thing we've been able to do is the DPI through UPI. It is extraordinary. It's something which is even the most advanced countries don't have that. Our digital services are extremely optimized in cost. I mean, it's a wonder what we've been able to do with data services. They are so shockingly economical that any citizen in the country with just $2 or $3 worth of data, 200 rupees, can consume a lot of data. So that part is very well taken care of. Penetration is also excellent. Most parts of the country has very good penetration.
Despite the ongoing global shocks from the West Asia crisis and the Ukraine conflict, India has managed to keep its economic growth remarkably on track even in globally troubled times. But the West faces a different outlook. Once referred to as the gold standard for welfare, the US, the UK and most European countries are currently facing mounting economic difficulties.
So far, what has been the rule? Whatever happens in advanced countries, we have to follow that. Now what is the rule? Whatever is happening in our country, they can also follow it. And not only that, Latin America, Africa, those countries have clear policy now that they can follow from us. a matter of pride for every Indian, every policy maker in India, and also a matter of pride for the Prime Minister. So as a country, I think we are making our presence felt on the global market.
Among Prime Minister Narendra Modi's many economic triumphs so far has been his successful efforts to revive, strengthen and expand the Indian welfare state and make it an engine of more inclusive economic growth. Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
The Central Board of Secondary Education extended the deadline for Class 12 students to apply for verification and revaluation of answer sheets by 1 day, following complaints about the technical issues on its post-result services portal. Students will now be able to submit applications until midnight on June 7th instead of the earlier deadline of midnight on June 6th. The decision comes after several students reported difficulties in accessing scanned copies of their answer books and filing applications for verification and revaluation through the portal, which was launched on June 2nd. As extreme heat intensifies across India, climate experts and the United Nations are warning that rising temperatures are becoming a growing public health and economic crisis. With urban areas facing increasingly dangerous heat levels, the focus is shifting towards long-term solutions as part of global efforts to reduce heat stress and protect vulnerable populations.
Every summer, Indian cities become a little more unbearable. And for the construction worker laying bricks at noon, the street vendor without shade, the elderly woman in a tin-roofed home, there is no escape. The United Nations Environment Programme warns that heat stress now kills more people every year than floods, storms and wildfires combined. In India, around 82% of the informal workforce, the backbone of nearly half the national economy, is exposed to dangerous heat daily.
When we speak, just focusing for a moment on workers, we're talking about 2.5 billion, 2.4 billion or so, which is about 70% of the global workforce, who are likely exposed to dangerous heat, including about 82% of India's informal workforce. And those obviously most exposed are construction, people in construction, in labor that is outside, physical, street vendors.
With humidity factored in, temperatures in some cities have been approaching 50 degrees Celsius, levels that the climate experts describe as beyond livable. Urban areas are especially vulnerable, with concrete and asphalt trapping heat and making cities significantly hotter than surrounding rural regions. For many residents without access to air conditioning, there is little escape from the extreme heat. However, the United Nations says the answer to the extreme heat is not air conditioners, but redesigning cities for passive cooling. Measures such as cool roofs, better ventilation, shaded public spaces, reflective surfaces, and more green cover can help reduce temperatures while cutting energy use and costs.
If you go into the countryside and walk through a field, you will know that it is likely cooler than if you walk in an urban concrete setting. And so the more we think about our cities to cool down our cities, passive cooling with wall and roof design, with glazing, shading, ventilation, and green and blue spaces, this is really how we can more cheaply bring down the cost than very expensive and polluting air conditioners.
As part of the UN's Beat the Heat initiative, 44 Indian cities have joined over 230 cities in 40 countries across continents in a global effort to translate heat resilience plans into action on the ground. But UN officials say much more needs to be done to ensure that vulnerable populations have access to affordable and sustainable cooling solutions.
We are very happy to see 44 cities enroll. We're happy to see the government step into this space to lead. But the reality remains that, across the world, more than 1 billion people lack adequate cooling, including in India. And if we do not take action, that number, the 1 billion, will become 3 billion by 2050 because of the rising temperatures.
Experts believe the solution lies in steady investment in cooling and an unflinching commitment to cutting the emissions that are making every summer worse than the last.
India has received a new, cleaner and more affordable fuel option. India's Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas Hardeep Singh Puri launched the E85 Flex Fuel, giving a fresh momentum to the country's ethanol journey. With lower cost than petrol, reduced carbon emissions and the potential to enhance farmers' income, E85 is being seen as a significant step towards an Atmanirbhar Bharat and a greener energy future. Let's take a look.
We are introducing an E85 fuel. Don't mix it up with the basic blend, which is at 20-21%. We are dealing with that separately. I am hoping that within a few weeks, we will have 50 to 100 E85 dispensing stations available in different parts of India, the NCR region and the Pune, Nagpur, Mumbai belt. 50 to 100. And by the end of this year, 2026, end of the calendar year, we will have 500 of these dispensing stations. And by the end of 27, we'll have 5,000.
Oil India Limited has discovered the presence of natural gas in an exploratory well drilled in the Andaman Seas, marking a significant development in India's offshore energy exploration efforts and boosting hopes of unlocking new hydrocarbon reserves in the region. India's Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, in a social media post, said the latest discovery was made at the Vijayapuram 3 exploratory well, located about 15 kilometers off the east coast of Andaman Island in a water depth of 355 meters. Puri described the development as another positive development in India's efforts to strengthen domestic energy security through increased exploration in offshore basins. The latest discovery marks the second successful gas-bearing well drilled by oil in the block, following the natural gas finds at Vijayapuram 2 in September 2025. The discovery comes under the government's Samudra Manthan mission, also known as National Deep Water Exploration Mission, which was announced by PM Modi during his Independence Day address in 2025. The initiative aims to accelerate deep water and ultra-deep water exploration across India's offshore basins to fully exploit the country's hydrocarbon potentials. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Now time for sports news. On to sports news now. Grandmaster R. Praggnanandhaa made history on Friday as he became the first Indian to win the Norway Chess title. The 20-year-old chess star defeated Germany's Vincent Keimer to conclude his campaign on a memorable note. With this victory, the Chennai-born star achieved something that even Indian legends like Vishwanathan Anand and current world champion D. Gukesh had not managed since the tournament began in 2013. India will face Japan in the final of the Under-18 Men's Asia Cup hockey tournament today. India secured their place in the final after defeating Pakistan 5-3 in the semi-final, trailing 2-3 until the final quarter. The Indian team staged a strong comeback, scoring 3 consecutive goals to seal the victory. With 4 goals, Ashish Tanipurti was the standout performer for India. The Indian team will now aim to carry forward their momentum and lift the trophy in the final. Maya Falinska is set to face Mirra Andreeva in the French Open women's singles final. Poland's qualifier Maya Falinska defeated Diana Snyder 7-6, 6-4 to reach a Grand Slam final for the first time in her career. Meanwhile, 19-year-old Russian player Mirra Andreeva beat Ukraine's Marta Kostyuk 6-1 and 6-3 in the semi-finals. Andreeva has reached the French Open final for the first time. The United States has confirmed that Iran's national football team has been granted visas to enter the country for the upcoming FIFA World Cup, with US Ambassador to Turkey Tom Barak saying the embassy in Ankara completed the processing and an administration official separately confirming the decision. The move ensures Iran will be able to participate in the tournament despite the ongoing political tensions, with officials stressing security vetting procedures, while the team is set to base itself in Mexico but will play all its group stage matches in the US, including games in Los Angeles and Seattle. Iran is to begin their World Cup campaign against New Zealand on June 16th in Los Angeles. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available both on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Akshay Dongre. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.